Ace Combat's first sortie into the PlayStation Portable skies with Skies of Deception was a fantastic one. So fantastic that I would say it's as good as some of the console entries. So when you hear that there's another game on this system made by the same group of people as before, it would be fair to assume that this new game would also be great. After all, the devs already had a great foundation to work from with Ace Combat X, so it's not like they could mess it up or anything, right? Right? Well, like with many things in life, it's not that simple. If a series goes on for long enough, the developers are going to need to figure out ways to make each future title unique so that it doesn't just become a slew of copy-paste shovelware. Ever since the culminating test that was Ace Combat 4, the series had gone on to try out different things with mostly positive success. Ace Combat 5 put a lot more emphasis on the story along with the Wingman command system plus the yes-no response mechanic. Ace Combat Advance, it exists. Ace Combat 0 implemented the Ace-style gauge. Ace Combat X focused on giving you different ways to tackle the war at large with the enemy reacting to your moves. And Ace Combat 6 featured massive large-scale battles thanks to more powerful hardware. So when it came time for this new PSP Ace Combat game to try out new things, it did alright. In some aspects for better, but in others for worse. This entry is one of the few Ace Combat titles that I dislike. I don't fully hate it. At the same time though, this is one of the few instances of me needing to legitimately treat playing an Ace Combat game like I'm clocking in for shifts at work. Well, let's not waste any more time and take to the PSP skies once more with Ace Combat Joint Assault.
Is this part of the plan? The whole world could turn against us. You gotta be joking.
We are in the final stage to fire a nuclear strike.
The next stage is set.
America.
Honesty is the best policy. It was a golden axe that I dropped.
Break.
Here they come, Ontario Squad.
Ace Combat has always been about taking the fantasies of being a fighter pilot and making them a reality. Hey, where's the development section? You're just gonna skip that? Ah, right. Yeah, I've decided to skip the development section entirely for this one. Given how many different emails I had to reach out to when trying to get more info on Ace Combat X's development only to wind up with no leads, I'm not going to put myself through that whole ordeal again just to get the same result. We all know the definition of insanity, right? While I was able to get small fragments of development backstory through 2 YouTube videos of Masanori Kato talking about the features of the game, there wasn't enough to make a dedicated development section. So I figured it would just be easier to skip ahead to the gameplay part. Anyway, Ace Combat has always been about taking the fantasies of being a fighter pilot and making them a reality, where we're able to pull off these batshit insane maneuvers that aren't possible in real life, where even the heaviest ground attackers and flying bricks of interceptors can be at least sort of mobile in order to complement the intended pace of combat in these games. Why am I bringing this up? A number of aircraft in this game feel super sluggish to fly. This isn't your usual beginner low-tier aircraft sluggishness that's expected when booting up a new save since you don't have access to the high-tier ones yet. This is, holy sh**, this aircraft handles like a boat. Get me out of this thing now levels of sluggishness. This is highlighted with the mobility of some aircraft, or rather, the lack thereof. If you've ever flown aircraft like the F-5E, MiG-31, MiG-29, F-1, F-11-7, etc., particularly without any parts, you'll know exactly what I mean. And it's because of this sluggish feeling, coupled with there being no parts unlocked yet during a fresh playthrough, that the opening hours of this game can feel unnecessarily slow, if that makes any sense. Those extra seconds that you need to spend maneuvering your aircraft can add up, leading to micro disruptions of the pace of combat. You may be in a spot where you take down an enemy or two, but then a third guy shoots past you. But because of how slow your aircraft is to turn around, you sit there for what feels like an unnecessary extra couple of seconds being unable to do anything. It would be one thing if this sluggish feeling was self-inflicted through flying something like an A-10 into an air-to-air engagement. But no, even aircraft that are meant for air-to-air combat like the F-16 can have a tough time maneuvering with no parts equipped. And hell, even when you've got multiple playthroughs under your belt with a variety of parts at your disposal, some of the aircraft can still be painful to fly since the list of compatible parts may not even be that good. In cases like these, you can marginally improve the aircraft, but it's not going to be a big enough change to make a serious difference. Aircraft like the F-1 and Nighthawk are a total lost cause in this regard. One could argue that the whole point of making some of the aircraft sluggish to fly is to give players an incentive to buy and equip parts, especially since when parts made their debut to to the franchise in Ace Combat X, they could only be equipped on the fictional original aircraft of the series, not any of the real-life ones. But you can still give incentives to go after and equip parts without making an aircraft painful to fly in its base form. Ace Combat 7 did this amazingly, where you could feel the difference between a stock and fully kitted out aircraft, but the stock versions weren't a full-blown pain in the ass to fly. It's not all doom and gloom though, as the high-tier aircraft in Joint Assault feel decent enough to fly on their own. But of course the high-tier aircraft are gonna handle fine. This problem does become less of an issue as you buy better aircraft and parts, but it doesn't ever entirely go away. As if needing to put up with the sluggish handling and micro disruptions wasn't bad enough, the progression of each aircraft is grindy. Rather than all the different available weapons for an aircraft being ready for purchase as soon as you grab it, you need to unlock each one first. When you buy a new aircraft, it'll have standard missiles and one special weapon unlocked by default. From that point on, you have to use the aircraft in question over and over again on missions to unlock the other weapons, along with different skins. It's clear what the developers were trying to do here. They were trying to give an incentive for players to get a solid amount of flight time with every aircraft in the game. The problem is, it makes each special weapon something that you have to grind for, not naturally earn. It doubly sucks when you're stuck with a subpar special weapon for the aircraft in question, like unguided bombs for the Su-27, but because you literally have no other choice for the time being, you have to roll with that. And it triply sucks, if triply is even a word, when you are punished for using those weapons. At the end of each mission, you get to see the total amount of credits that you earned. The game then deducts some of your credits to repair your aircraft if you took any damage, which is fine, but then the game also takes away some of your credits for the weapons you used in battle. You are punished, even if only by a small amount, for using your weapons. An aircraft damage penalty is fine, as it directly correlates to your skill. You should be rewarded and punished for good and bad flying respectively. But you should not be punished for using the weapons that are needed in order to progress through the game. Yeah, it's usually only a small fraction of the base amount of credits per mission that's taken away, but those lost credits can add up. And the game's economy is a bit messed up because the amount of credits you get per mission versus the cost of a number of the aircraft aren't 100% balanced. The game recognizes this, and every now and then it'll give you random credit bonuses to give you a bit of a boost. So not only are the special weapons a bit overly grindy, the aircraft can be a bit overly grindy to get as well. The regular aircraft, I mean, not the super planes. I think there being a big grind to get the super planes is fine. In combination with the sluggishness of not having any parts towards the beginning, or maybe the compatible parts for an aircraft aren't even that strong, it can lead to some frustrating moments during your time playing. Like I stated in my Ace Combat tier list video, whenever it's possible, I always max out an aircraft's speed and mobility at the cost of literally everything else so I can get that true Ace Combat feeling. All of this results in the flying itself being mixed, which is a very worrying sign. The flying in your arcade flight action game is the one thing you need to have 100% right. But as if that wasn't enough, the devs also went ahead and messed around with the camera. You've probably noticed in the gameplay so far how the aircraft I'm flying sways around to the sides a lot more. That's because of how the third-person camera is set up. In the previous games, no matter how much you moved your aircraft, the camera would still stay locked on. Meanwhile, in Joint Assault, your aircraft can reach the edges because the camera is locked to the center of the screen, not onto the rear of the aircraft. This can throw off your sense of direction at times, requiring that you take a couple of seconds to reorient yourself, which can leave you exposed to enemies. So, you've got sluggish feeling aircraft, a progression system that's too grindy, for my taste at least, and a weird third-person camera. It's not looking good so far. Well, okay then. How about when you're in an aircraft that can actually maneuver for shit and you've got the loadout that you want? How's the game then? That depends on what mission you're currently on. The missions in Joint Assault range from fun, to okay, to frustrating, and eventually all the way up to a mission being so bad it has made me put down this game before since I knew that one would be up next. You've got your usual missions you'd find in an Ace Combat game. Achieving air superiority, protecting allies, enemy Ace Squadron fights, of which you only fight a single Ace Squadron multiple times throughout the whole campaign, super weapon fights, etc. Again, some of the missions in this game are legitimately fun. Desert Dawn is a fun air-to-ground level and is my preferred mission to grind whenever I'm forced to use air-to-ground special weapons while unlocking other ones. Also, this is one of 2 missions where in the zone play, so I may or may not be a bit biased there. Night Watch is another fun one. Aerial Fortress fights my beloved, although I do actually have a problem with the super weapon fights as a whole that I'll talk about in a bit. And Desert Gust is a fun mission too that offers a great mix of both air-to-air and air-to-ground combat. But not every mission is so fun. I'll save you all the extra minutes of the various missions I have issues with in my nitpicks and just talk about what I like to call the session killer mission. A mission so bad it has ended play sessions for me. Blockade.
Check it out.
Not to be confused with the mission of the same name in Ace Combat 4, Blockade and Joint Assault is fucking abysmal due to the awful pacing. So here's what's going on. Throughout the game, you're fighting a terrorist organization known as the Valahia, a group of people who want to start their own communist utopia nation. The Valahia plans to use nukes in order to knock out the superpowers of the world so they can focus on building their own nation rather than needing to continue to fight essentially the whole world. For Blockade, the Valahia is transporting some nuclear fuel to, well, fuel their ICBMs. You are tasked with stopping them. However, you can't just fire at the transports, otherwise the area will become irradiated by the nuclear fuel. I don't know why our allies weren't in position already, but okay. So, you have to stall the Valahia for as long as possible. At first, the nuclear fuel is being transported via a group of Chinooks that are being escorted by groups of Apaches. As you eliminate these groups of Apaches, the Chinooks will make some work ground before pausing for a minute or so whenever a new batch of them spawn. I don't know why they're just pausing and chilling there for a while when they need to get the nuclear fuel to the rendezvous point ASAP, but okay. This first part is fine. It goes on for a little bit too long though, especially since the Apaches are easy to destroy, which means the time spent waiting for the next group of them to spawn can drag on for a bit. Then the helicopters land where you get a couple of more targets to shoot at, and now the nuclear fuel is on a cargo ship. This fucking part is why I say this mission is abysmal. You thought the wait between attack helicopter spawns was bad? Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. In order to stall the cargo ship to buy your allies a little more time, you have to destroy enemy naval ships along the way so that their wreckage can force it to stop for a little bit. The problem is, the wait between these enemy ships is so unnecessarily long. Wanna know how long? I was able to order myself some wings while I was waiting. I am going to see if I can place an order of some wings while we're waiting on the other ship to be knocked out, because I want to demonstrate just how fucking abysmal the pacing is. And also, chat, this is your chance to say hi to the YouTube audience if you want, because I'm gonna be including this bit in the Joint Assault retrospective, because I want to prove in the retrospective as well just how fucking abysmal the pacing is. Okay, so I am going to get the app ready. I'm ordering from Wingstop if anyone's curious. Getting me getting me the 8-piece combo, that'd be my plan. I'm even going to be very generous towards Joint Assault here. I am going to manually enter my address, and then also since I've never placed an order like on the app and everything, I also need to manually enter my card details as well. All right, so we destroy that. Send some missiles to the cruiser. Here come the 2 F-16s. All right, as soon as these F-16s go down, we'll start placing the order. Suboptimal firing angle. All right, and go! Go, 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 go! All right, address. I'm also gonna do this on my phone because I don't want to accidentally dox myself with like a Windows pop-up on the main screen. Okay, address is in. Wing combos. 8-piece wing combo, boneless. A boneless pizza. Hickory smoked barbecue sauce, yes please. Ranch dip. Seasoned fries. No soda for me because I'm cutting back on sodas, or I have been successfully cutting back on sodas for a while. Add to bag. All right, go to the cart. Double check my stuff here. 8-piece boneless combo. Delivery to there. That all checks out. How much is, so we'll do, yeah, that's a good amount for the tip. $4, that's fine. Checkout. All right, it's loading. It's thinking. It's think-thonking. It's think-thonking about it. To there. To there. No contact delivery. Yes, please. All right. All right, let me spin around here so that I'm not crashing into the mountains as well here. Okay. So then payment. Add a payment method. Add a card. Chat, what if I made the rookie mistake of reading out all my digits live on stream? Streamer, can you read out your credit card details and the wacky 3 digits on the back?
Hunters, use the other hostile ships.
Okay. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam.
Time your shots to destroy them when the transport.
Bam, bam, bam. Add. Place order. It's thinking. It's thinking. It's thinking. Thank you. Delivery in about 46 I
I can place an order of wings for food in the time it takes between the next ship there to spawn and be ready to die! Game! How is your pacing so fucking bad? Do you guys see why I don't like this game? Can you see why I am not the biggest fan of this game?
Dude, and that was even with the benefit of me needing to manually enter my address and my card details since it was the first time ordering from the app as well. I could have cleared that easily had I had all my saved already. Your order has been placed and you should receive an email confirmation shortly. Oh my god.
It amazes me how nobody saw this terrible pacing as an issue during playtesting. Granted, none of the other missions in the game fumble this hard in terms of pacing, but the fact this severe of a fumble even happened once is just insane to me. Easily the worst mission out of the whole campaign, and one of the worst missions in Ace Combat history. Okay, so to recap, Joint Assault has a handling model that renders a not insignificant number of aircraft unnecessarily sluggish to fly. The progression system for the aircraft and their special weapons leans a bit too heavily on the grindy side of things. The third-person camera can throw off your sense of direction and leave you exposed to enemies while you reorient yourself through no fault of your own. And now the mission variety is mixed in terms of how good and bad it is, with there being a mission so bad it has ended entire play sessions before. Not just for me, but for many others, I would imagine. Well, let's talk about when the conditions are ideal. A good feeling aircraft with the special weapon you want with the pacing of the level being good. How is the game then? It's alright. The act of shooting down enemies and pounding away at ground and naval targets feels as good as it did in Skies of Deception. The enemies have been updated to have ever so slightly larger hitboxes so you won't get as many near misses, and the missile tracking has been updated so that missiles won't give up as easily. Enemies in this game also appear much larger than in Skies of Deception thanks to the touted enhanced combat view. Now that I think about it, this was the sign of an ill omen given what would happen with the next Ace Combat game. The whole enemy all large and up in your face aspect. But that retrospective isn't gonna be for a while longer. Wait, what do you mean Assault Horizon is next after this one? Remaining on the note of the enemy aircraft in this game, I don't know what happened between Skies of Deception and Joint Assault, but their AI has been dumbed down. The only difficulty where they even felt even a little challenging was Ace difficulty. We all know what happened though. The regular AI had to be toned down so that Slimani's AI for the final mission could be ridiculous. Or at least that's the meme answer. I don't know what actually happened behind the scenes. In any case, I'm not about to be caught wanting infuriatingly hard enemies over boringly easy ones. I'd still much rather have the latter. And to be fair, enemies can still knock you out of the sky if you let your guard down. But the noticeable downgrade in the regular enemy AI's performance can't be ignored. You know what also can't be ignored? The large number of super weapon fights. I love a good super weapon fight, particularly aerial fortress fights. But I also really like some of the air-to-ground super weapon fights the series has, like Stonehenge and Excalibur. That being said, for as much as I love these fights, I also don't want to be constantly partaking in them because then that takes away how special they are. If you're going up against super weapon after super weapon after super weapon, then the significance of them becomes less impactful as the campaign goes on. 1, 2, maybe 3 super weapons per campaign is a solid amount in my eyes. The Arcbird and Solg in 5, Excalibur and the XBO in 0, the Aigion and Chandelier in 6, you get the idea. When making super weapon fights, you not only need to make sure that each fight is fun, but if you're going to include more than one, you need to make sure to pace them appropriately in order to make them be unique and stand out. Joint Assault didn't get this memo. Joint Assault has 21 possible missions in its campaign. You won't be able to experience all of them in a single playthrough, and depending on which missions you choose, your length will vary. Let's see which missions have a super weapon fight. Mission 2, Bird Hunt, has you fighting the Spiridus so that it retreats. Mission 5, Capital Defense, has you fighting against the Orgoi. Mission 12, Night Watch, has you fighting against the Spiridus and destroying it this time. Mission 14, Dragon Lair, has you fighting against the Balaur... The Balaur. Did I say that right? Fuck it. Dollar Store Stonehenge. Mission 18, Alarm Clock, has you fighting not 1, not 2, but 3 Orgoi aerial fortresses. And Mission 20, Ghost Hunt, has you fighting another Spiridus aerial fortress. Again, I want to reiterate, your actual campaign length will not be all 21 missions. This means that on average, roughly a third of your campaign playtime will be fighting against enemy super weapons. If this was something like a super weapon gauntlet game mode or something where the whole point is to face these powerful foes back to back, that would be one thing. The problem with Joint Assault is that the game gives these boss fights the same presentation sophistication and levels of prestige as other super weapon fights from previous games, but because there are so many of them here, after a while, it just doesn't hit the same. Hell, even the game recognizes that it has a lot of these super weapon fights. The opening dialogue in both Capital Defense and Ghost Hunt have that, yeah, we know we're pushing it energy.
You got another flying monster. You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, my kind of crazy.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Oh boy, I can't believe we have to fight this thing again.
Lighten up, Corporal. Just think of this as a chance to shoot it down again.
Good point. I'm looking forward to some fireworks out there.
Now, are the super weapon boss fights themselves bad or anything? No. Each of them are fun to fight. Although fighting the two Orgoi aerial fortresses during the latter half of Alarm Clock can be annoying because of the impossible maneuvers they end up doing together in unison. Then again, this is Ace Combat, so I can't say that I'm surprised. But again, there are so many of them in this game that by the time I complete Night Watch, the magic has worn off. Okay, so we've got a sluggish handling model, grindy progression, a wacky third-person camera, mixed missions on how good versus bad they are, including a mission so bad you can literally order food while waiting because the pacing is so bad, and now we have downgraded AI and so many super weapon fights that they don't hit as hard after about halfway through the campaign. Is there anything else? Anything else that can redeem the gameplay, even by just a little bit? I mean, we already talked about parts, enhanced combat view, super weapon fights, progression, okay, there is a genuinely good thing about Joint Assault, and that's the music. The game reuses a number of tracks from previous games like Ace Combat 2 and 3, which are nice to listen to again. And the couple of original tracks included are really good too. Some of my favorites are Birds of Prey, Sound Embrace, Night Watch, In the Zone. Like, dude, that guitar solo goes hard. And the remixes of Linkage from Ace Combat 3 go hard too. Look, I'm sorry, Burford, you're gonna need to do the strategic briefing all over again because I'm too busy jamming out right now. Alright, so the music is great, but besides that, I mean... Oh, one more thing actually. I've got a couple of favorite voice lines from the campaign that I want to play here.
Error within the main control system. The
nemesis of Wallachia?
Don't disappoint us. Come on.
Captain, things don't look good. Let's fall back.
Orgoi, are you serious?
Varkolax Squadron, retreat.
What? Safety is the most important thing to me. Doesn't the pilot realize that?
You'll only have a split second to act. Good luck.
You will not stop me!
Okay, so we've got the music and voice acting. Is there anything else that's good? Not really. Things do become a bit better when you play the game's multiplayer, but that'll be its own dedicated part of the video. For the core gameplay and single-player offerings, there's nothing else to talk about. Nothing else that could potentially be a positive for this game. Well, on to the story then. Before we dive into Joint Assault's story, I think it's worth remembering what some of the other Ace Combat games had as their stories and themes. Ace Combat 4 has a story and theme about honor and chivalry in the midst of war, how you can still have respect for someone despite the fact you're both trying to kill each other, not out of personal hatred, but out of it being your jobs as pilots during war. Ace Combat 0 has a story and theme about how the world needs to change, how with the current state of affairs, the world can feel hopeless, and how sometimes it can feel like the only way to make any meaningful progress is to set everything ablaze. Ace Combat X has a story and theme about one man being able and willing to throw his whole country into a state of war for the sake of profits. Generally, the stories and themes are heavy-hitting ones, meant to leave you thinking about it for a while after you're done playing. So, what does Joint Assault have for its story?
Private war damage insurance. Our insurance, the standard life insurance and property insurance. The insurance business is about duty and obligation.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now! Stop the cap!
And the world became one of capitalism. But thanks to the greedy swines bred by this very system, the once sweet fruit of capitalism is now rotten to the core. It has reached the end of its time.
Let me ask you, are you honestly fulfilled and prospering?
And Terry, it's that Olivieri, right? This whole conflict is a joke, man. It's all staged by that crazy ass.
His aim was to create a war he can control. A pointless conflict that just makes money for him.
Olivieri worked with supervisors in other industries to create conflict to save his company from impending bankruptcy. He don't see it the enemy of the world fueled the demand for insurance, allowing him to turn a massive profit from private war damage insurance in the U.S. An insurance model no insurance company would ever consider.
However, he evaded risk by selling off his massively successful war damage insurance business to another company. The company he sold the business to would have been forced to
go to sleep, go sleep, little pig. Go to sleep, gone to sleep. Goo gaga time for you.
TLDR, greedy dollar store Jeff Bezos doesn't want his business to go under, so he creates a war in order to avoid bankruptcy. Another one man setting up a war to get rich plot with a greed can drive people to stoop to the lowest of lows theme. It doesn't hit quite as hard in Joint Assault though. Navarro's greed in Skies of Deception hits hard because he's in control of a whole nation. He's willingly letting his people who have sworn to fight for Laysath into an unnecessary war. Olivieri, on the other hand, is a rich-ass CEO of an insurance company who just hires terrorists and mercs to get their hands dirty for him. Also, since part of this game takes place in the US, we're talking about an insurance company CEO, and the game takes a jab at it, I have to throw this in here real quick. Capitalism needs to be dialed back. You shouldn't need to pay for basic needs in healthcare. I know, bold statement right there. There's also something that I found really interesting in regards to Joint Assault's plot. In the first of 2 developer diaries on this game, Masanori Kato talks about how when creating the setting for the game, the team took into account how, quote, the era of economic prosperity had ended. This game came out in 2011, only a couple of years after the 2007 to 2009 recession in the US. And in Japan, depending on who you ask, the country had either only recently gotten out of or was still in the middle of the lost decades, a period of economic stagnation. Another crucial part to the story is your fellow squadron turned enemy, Rigel Squadron, or as they're known once they turn on you, Varkolax Squadron. Notice how I didn't say they were a good part of the story though. Slimani, Orima, Gaviria, and Kiryakov all betraying you feels very forced and sudden. You don't get a lot of time to get to know them, and you can't even really bond with them a whole lot given that these 4 are their own squadron. So whatever they're doing is separate from whatever you're doing. It's not that I think a group of PMC pilots wouldn't betray their current employer if it means they can get more money elsewhere. That part is believable. What kills me is just how sudden it is. Dimitri
Demetrius just hits up Slimani and his team and is like, you want to work for us? We'll pay you more, we swear. And then Slimani and his squadron go, yeah, that sounds good. And then they just fuck off far into the distance. For all we know, this could have been some 5D chess with multiverse time travel move that Demetrius was playing here. He gets Rigel's squadron to stand down, directs them to somewhere far away, and then the Valahia ambushes them. But no, Demetrius kept his word. Again, it's not that Rigel's squadron defected in the first place. That makes sense given they're doing this for money, being PMC pilots and all. It's just that the sudden and spontaneous nature of their betrayal makes it feel very forced. What makes this all even worse is how the reasoning for Slimani's betrayal in particular isn't brought up until the very end out of the blue. Last mission villain explanations or revelations have been done successfully before. General Shepard from Modern Warfare 2 is a great example. We don't know why he betrays us until the very end.
Years ago, I lost 30,000 men in the blink of an eye, and the world just fucking watched.
This last mission explanation works because we've seen the devastation of this war. We're invested through things like the invasion of Washington, D.C., saving Captain Price, and the hunt for Makarov. And because we're invested in the minute-to-minute gameplay through the combat, the dialogue, the music, we're by extension invested in the story. It also helps that Shepard has been present as an ally for a big part of the campaign. And this explanation also ties in with an event from the previous game, the nuke that goes off at the end of Shock and Awe. Because we as Jackson directly witnessed and got killed by the nuke, we can vividly remember that moment when Shepard says that he lost 30,000 men in the blink of an eye. So again, last mission villain explanations can absolutely work, but it doesn't work here in Joint Assault. So after you take down the other three, Slimani is all that's left. We've gone the whole game dealing with sluggish aircraft, mixed levels in terms of how good or bad they are, progression that's a bit too grindy, and too many super weapons to name a few problems. After all of that, what is this guy's reasoning for betraying us?
This so-called plan means nothing to me. I only wish to shoot you down, Antares. You see, I was sold off by my parents and was trained to kill as a child soldier. The more I kill, the more I earn. The stronger the foe, the better the money. You're no different, Antares. Your wings are a token of your previous victories. Now, Antares, it's the moment of truth.
Yeah, I just really don't care, bro. If the game had allowed us to get to know Slimani some more, then this could have worked. Like maybe if we were a part of his squadron and we saw little glimpses and moments of him craving more money, like the profits were never enough to him for some reason. Maybe a small hint into his past as a child soldier, but we don't know it's a hint for that first time playthrough. And then during a follow-up playthrough, we come across that hint again and the realization hits. And then when the betrayal happens, we're the only ones to refuse defecting. That way we still get the enemy A squadron fight since everyone else joins up with Slimani. And then because of the time we had flying alongside him and seeing the hints, that makes the final reveal hit a bit harder. It would also help if the gameplay was a bit better so that it didn't feel like a bit of a chore to reach the end. Dude, what the hell? I feel tired, and we still gotta talk about the multiplayer. Man, if I'm feeling this tired already with Joint Assault, I can't imagine how dead I'm gonna be when talking about Assault Horizon. Come on, Thunders, you can do this. Just the multiplayer in conclusion. You got this. You're almost there. Real quick, before we dive into it, I need to give a shout out. Fuzon S, being the Giga Chad that he is, once more agreed to join up with me for an Ace Combat multiplayer experience. Thank you, man. Thank you. Joint Assault's multiplayer can be divided into two parts, the co-op campaign and the versus mode. Beginning with the co-op campaign, this is a much better experience than the single player version. It's now clear to me that this game's campaign was designed around the co-op first. In retrospect, duh, given the subtitle of this game and all, but as someone who had never gotten to experience Joint Assault's multiplayer offerings until now, it never hit me just how big of an improvement having other people with you is. Of course, anything in life is more fun, or at the very least easier to deal with when you have friends. But not only is there more to see and do when you're playing co-op, the campaign is able to reach its true potential. Now, is it a silver bullet fix? No. You still gotta deal with things like the sluggish aircraft depending on what you pick and the wacky third-person camera. And in a select few instances, the pacing of the Joint Assault missions can actually be a bit worse than their single-player variants. Let's start with the good part of the co-op campaign first, though. Firstly, like I mentioned earlier, the subtitle of this game gets a chance to shine in this mode. You know those splits in the campaign where you can either only take on one out of the two missions, or both of them but only one after the other, with the joint assault mechanic, you and the other people in your lobby can take on both missions at the same time. Not only that, but whatever you do in one combat area can directly affect the other. Instead of needing to wait for off-screen allies who are operating on a predetermined timer, you need to wait for however long it takes for the other players to do their tasks. Moments like putting out the fires for Paper Wasp during safe recovery, or using long-range missiles to destroy reads on the Spiridus and Ghost Hunt, things like that. Enemies can also fly to other combat areas to try and mess with the players there. Additional enemies that are marked with a yellow targeting square will make an attempt to book it to this yellow bar on one of the ends of the combat zone. If the enemy makes it to this yellow bar, they'll despawn in the current area and respawn in the other, therefore giving whoever is in that other mission a bit more trouble. Speaking of enemies, in co-op, a lot more of them show up to match with the increased player count, and most of the super weapon fights play out differently too. While co-op doesn't resolve the issue of there being so many of them in one campaign, these beefed up versions are really nice to experience, especially after having played the single player versions of them to death by this point. But like I said earlier, there are a couple of instances where the pacing can get a little messy. Not as bad as Blockade, but still messy nonetheless. To be fair, out of the whole campaign, I only had 2 instances during the joint assault missions where I was left with absolutely nothing to do while waiting for Fuzon to do his thing. But for those 2 instances, the lack of targets to shoot at to pass the time was palpable. Back to the positives, another indication that the campaign was built with co-op in mind first and foremost is through the dialogue. It can be a little puzzling to be referred to as a squadron even though you're flying by yourself when playing the campaign solo. Yeah, you've got placeholder eagles and hornets that are meant to represent you being a part of a squadron in some cutscenes, but those allies don't show up during gameplay. Which, now that I think about it, how come the devs didn't just add AI teammates for the co-op version of the campaign if you've got no one else to play with? It would still be limited, I'd imagine. The AI wouldn't have access to things like special weapons since they don't have access to those in the PvP side of things, but they would still be present at least. Or maybe if the devs wanted to go the extra mile, they could somehow make it so that they'd have access to special weapons in the co-op campaign. But either way, with how much better the campaign played in co-op, I'm surprised the devs didn't at least give us the option to have AI teammates. Well, AI teammates that aren't Rigel Squadron anyway. Overall, the co-op campaign is a fun experience. Again, it's not a silver bullet fix or anything of the sort, but it's better than the single player version without question. Now let's take a look at Versus Mode, the PvP side to Joint Assault multiplayer. Just like in X, bots can fill up the remaining slots to ensure that you still have full lobbies. Regarding game modes, Joint Assault has 6 of them: Survival, Shootout, Base Assault, Air Superiority, Beacon Battle, and Escort Mission. Survival tasks you with draining the enemies dry of their reinforcements. Each player or bot has a limited number of available respawns. Once someone runs out, they gotta sit out the rest of the round. Whichever team drains the other dry first wins. Shootout is the only game mode where no bots can join. It's just you and whoever you're with pitted against each other in a free-for-all type mode. Whoever is able to reach the target number of kills wins. Base Assault tasks you with destroying the enemy's base. Shoot at the cover protecting the core of the base, then open fire when it's exposed. Whoever destroys the other team's base first wins. Air Superiority tasks you with having your time in the spotlight. As was the case with X, quite literally, as you'll gain points for remaining in this circle of lights. Beacon Battle is the capture the flag type mode, tasking you with snatching the enemy's beacon and taking it back to your base. And lastly, Escort Mission tasks you with escorting your allies to the enemy's base while also destroying the enemy's ground or naval forces heading to your base. Whichever team reaches the target number of infiltrations wins. While there isn't much in the way of novelty this time around, since this isn't a first-time experience anymore, Joint Assault multiplayer is very solid. Don't get me wrong, it has its shortcomings. Limited music choices, the core gameplay issues of the camera and handling model are here as well, and your AWACS operator in Escort Mission says the same thing over and over and won't shut the f*** up!
You shut the f*** up! You shut the fuck up. I hope you die in a fire.
But as a nice little side mode to indulge in with friends, like I said, I think it's solid. Each match can be anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes long, which fits perfectly given the device that this game is on. Perfect for quick little matches here and there to kill some time during a trip, or even if you're staying somewhere for a while and want to squeeze in a round or two. Now, would I suggest that you go out of your way to try out this game's multiplayer offerings? If you're a die-hard Ace Combat fan, then yeah. But if you're just a casual enjoyer of the series, for instance, I would say it probably wouldn't be worth it for you to go through the hurdles of setting up PPSSPP's network settings and Radman VPN. I feel like I got my fill of this game's multiplayer from both the co-op campaign and the versus mode. And to be honest, I don't have a crazy drive to return to it for more. Was it neat to experience at least once? Absolutely. And I have to shout out Fuzon again for being able to help me out with this part of the video. But in terms of replayability, there's not much to it other than going after ranks and medals. Ace Combat Joint Assault is one of the Ace Combat games of all time. While it does have some positives going for it, like the co-op mode for the campaign, the Joint Assault mechanic, and the music, there are also a ton of negatives working against it that I've listed multiple times throughout this video. Joint Assault can be best described as an experimental title that got some things right, but a lot of others wrong. But you know what? At least Joint Assault still has the core DNA of what an Ace Combat game is. Or, actually, let me put it a better way. The soul of Ace Combat can still be found here, and that right there is why I don't fully hate this game. Yeah, perhaps the soul doesn't shine as bright here as it does in previous games, but it's still there. Little did Ace Combat players know at the time that the soul of this franchise wouldn't go on to simply vanish with the next installment. It would go on to be intentionally destroyed.
Never far away, though he's always on the road, yeah. Like he's got no home, I can feel him here. Like he's standing right beside me. Yeah, he's always in my heart. Can you tell the way our humble home impressed a silence on his burdened soul, traveled from afar to find a shelter for